Now I'm moving on to the next panel session, which is titled The Guardians of the Digital Frontier, Cybersecurity, Privacy, and Africa's AI Sovereignty. As Africa becomes more digital, the threats are growing, including cybercrime, data theft, and surveillance. This session will break down what cybersecurity really means in everyday terms and why it is central to AI sovereignty. So I'd like to first of all call on our panelist, our moderator for today, Precious Adeze. She's the founder of Byte Bunker. Hello, Precious. You're welcome. A round of applause for Precious, please, as she walks up to the stage. Hi, Precious. Okay. Next up on the list, I'm going to call Mr. Sadiq Nasir. Is the managing director of NetSwitch Limited. You're welcome, sir. Round of applause for him, please. Okay, great. And second, I'm going to call on Dr. Tolulokwe Pius Fadikpe, who is the head of research and development at Nigeria Data Protection Commission. You're welcome, man. Okay, do we have any of the other panelists on the online? Oh, okay. And also we have Shipra Warima. She's the Vice President of the Global Council for Responsible AI Kenya chapter. You're welcome. You're welcome, Shipra. Hi, Shipra. Say hello to us.
Hello.
Okay. We can hear you loud and clear. Hello from Nigeria. All right. The last person on the list,
Hello,
Bolaji Bankole. Is he with us? Is Bolaji online? Okay. All right. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Precious to Adeze and let her take us on this interesting journey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Digital Africa, for bringing this session to us. It's been an amazing journey since yesterday. Listening to all the speakers and everything they have to say, it's very imperative for us to understand that AI is not some stories that we hear, it's not a future thing, okay? According to the last speaker, he said that let us not meet AI tomorrow and be in the past of AI. So we'll be looking at the security angle to all this. And it's actually, or let me put it this way, let us not invite problems to ourselves. Yeah, that's how I want to look at it. So it's not a scary thing to use AI, but are we prepared? Are we really prepared to handle everything that comes with AI? It's a great technology, yeah. We all know that. But are we really prepared for this change that has come to stay? And I'll be giving... Do we have Dr. Shimra online? So I'll be giving them 5 minutes to air their views on what they think. They have different angles to it. But then, please, I will employ us to please add other angles since we don't have the rest of our speakers here with us. Thank you. So, Dr. Nasir, can we hear from you, please?
All right. Cybersecurity is actually not important until it becomes important. So let me break that down to you. When we do advocacy, try to enlighten people on the best practice around cybersecurity, a lot of people go mute and they go deaf. And then when there's an incident, maybe a WhatsApp incident happens and then someone's WhatsApp gets compromised and then money is extracted, then we receive calls that my WhatsApp is hacked. The truth is, I was telling you this last year, but you just didn't listen. So what am I trying to say is we need to be more deliberate around how we interact with our devices. We need to educate our parents. We need to educate our colleagues. We need to educate everyone around us, because there's no point you buy a phone for your grandma, you teach her how to use WhatsApp, and she's able to send you messages from the hometown or from the village, but yet You never told her that someone could easily compromise her WhatsApp and what she can do about it. They tend to have people that they target, certain demographics, that's the hackers. So imagine if that happens to maybe your loved one, you'll be torn apart. So what I'm trying to say is there's a need to break down cybersecurity concept to email that is coming to you or not. Even with WhatsApp. So let me just give you into context. For the past 10 years, I've been part of the team that go out for cybersecurity awareness, and we educate people around everything else around cybersecurity. And you only get people's attention when you tell them your phone can be compromised and they can steal your money. That's when people get attention, because people like to work hard for their money and they like to keep their money. So the important thing is we need to be more deliberate on how we protect ourselves. We need to educate even the younger ones. The younger ones are more vulnerable than ever. A lot of us have kids right now. They're probably at home, some of us, some of them having their midterms. And what do they do with devices? How do they spend time? These are all things that we as parents, we as CEOs, we as startups, we need to be able to ask ourselves. If you're a new startup, have you thought about developing an AI-powered solution that is like cybersecurity centric that can help keep your parents safe? If you're a parent, have you thought about looking for a software solution, maybe an application that you can install on your phone that can limit or monitor what your kids do? These are all questions we need to ask ourselves. And this is not rocket science. This is real life. A few years ago, before everybody started talking about AI, I was privileged to be a part of a project called One Laptop Per Child, which was pushed down by the MIT, that's an American university. And one of the things we noticed that we went to a rural school somewhere in Abuja. When I mean rural school, like a school that don't have internet, they don't have all the luxuries of electricity and whatnot. And we gave them this $100 laptops. Within 20 minutes, these kids have never seen a laptop before. I mean, then there was no tablets. I'm talking about close to about 15, 16, 17 years ago, thereabout. Then tablets were not much. And we heard a screaming noise coming from the classroom. And then everybody was like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? So I said, okay, so let me walk to the back of the classroom because that's where the noise is originating from. As I went to the back, they covered the laptops. And I got curious as to what were they doing with these, what they were doing. Then someone told me that, they were watching pornography. These are kids that have never seen a laptop before. They've never had access to internet ever. They're like from the rural home. But within 20 minutes, someone was able to say, okay, this is what we do. Let's go and find porn. And they find it exciting. So these are some of the dangers I'm bringing to us as parents, as business owners, as someone with loved ones. We need to ask ourselves. And sometimes people come to me and say, okay, what do? I have cybersecurity issue. I'm like, I don't know it all. I might be a professional, but I don't know it all. Because the truth is sometimes these threat actors, what I mean by threat actors, the bad people, they're actually 10 steps ahead of you. And we have to start thinking in that direction because cybersecurity is more of a mental game, like having that awareness. Technology comes in second. You are human resources in your office. Have you thought about conducting a cybersecurity awareness for the team in your office? A lot of organizations, they spend millions and millions of naira, equipping their teams with latest softwares, latest everything else. But have you ever trained your staff? Okay, fine, you've trained them, but how frequent? Some people say you have to do awareness every year, like once at least every year for your team, because it only takes one staff to click on that malicious email and your entire network infrastructure comes to a halt. These are not far-fetched stories. We've seen it in airports around the world. I think just last month, was it Heathrow or somewhere, their systems were compromised. So the thing I'm saying is, we as Nigerians, we shouldn't think of cybersecurity as their problem. That's the IT guys and whatnot. We should think of it as, it's also my problem. What can I do to keep my parents safe? What can I do to keep my kids safe? What can I do to keep my organization safe? A way around this is we have to seek for knowledge. Nobody knows it all. Just ask questions. You have colleagues, you have IT guys. Ask them a question. Oh, how do I protect my laptop? A simple solution might be just to lock your laptop every time you're stepping out, because that 1 minute can leave your colleague to compromise your system. It doesn't take much. You might be working together, but everyone has different motives. Maybe he's trying to get a promotion ahead of you. Maybe he's just evil intent. I don't know, but I'm just saying these things happen. Whenever you are working with a laptop in an environment, you have to make sure that it's locked. So there are several tips that I could give us, but I'm trying to keep the conversation short to tell you that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. It's a responsibility that involves you and I, and AI can help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir. So we have Dr. Tolu. Dr. Tolu, would like to hear from you before I...
All right, thank you. The issue of artificial intelligence is quite interesting. It's what you can't avoid. So because when you start thinking about artificial intelligence, so people are running away from it. You can't run away from it. When the last panelist spoke, the guy was talking about when we use Nokia. So it means that we've been using AI ever since we started using Nokia. The only thing is that AI developed. And in the era of AI, there's a privacy risk. And when you talk about AI depends heavily on data. So the question I want to ask you is that who is feeding AI this data? It is you and I. So a good example is you're on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, etc. You always maybe on the platforms that sell food, clothes, a certain type of clothes. After a while, you start see your Facebook or your social media handle suggesting things that unlock your pattern of thought. What does it mean? That study your pattern of thought because you have fed it that data. Now, what has Nigeria done? Nigeria has enacted the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023. And the purpose of that act is to regulate the processing of personal information. And personal information also translates to personal data. So most people are not even conscious of what they do with their data. Now we have personal data. We also have sensitive personal data. Your personal data are your name, your address, your email, BVN, etc. Your sensitive personal data are your health records, genetic, political affiliation, things that can be used to discriminate against you. Of recent, I was at a conference. It's about cocoa, and it's about the EU DHR compliance for cocoa farmers. That is, if they want to take their cocoa to the EU, they need to meet some certain terms. So now what they've done is that they do geolocation for cocoa farms. And when I spoke, I told them that there's a risk there. There's a risk that someone is able to hack into that system and is able to see what that farmer is doing in life on his farm. So the issue of artificial intelligence is moving into our day-to-day activities. Now, there are some key challenges that are issues with AI. And the first thing is over-collection of data. So for AI to work, it needs large set of data. So it collects a lot of data, even data that are not useful. So the first thing is data minimization, to ensure that AI collects only data that is necessary about you. Two, under the Act, we have what we call right of data subject. So we have the data controller. That is the people that take your data and determine the use of your data, like your Facebook. We now have the data processor that processes data on behalf of the data controller. And of course, we have ourselves, we are the data subjects. Now you have data subject rights. So one of the beautiful things the Act has done is the right to be informed. So the fourth question about yourself is that most of you, when you start using AI or you download all these emerging technologies, you don't even read the privacy policy that says it's going to collect your data and what it's going to do with your data. So the right to be informed. most importantly is the right to object to automated decision making. So if you're talking about AI, that is, AI can take a decision without human intervention. So as a data subject, you have a right to object to decision based on automated processing. Then the issue of consent is very, very important. Before they can even process this data, they need your consent. Most of us just give consent. So if you download app, most of this app, they use artificial intelligence. So most of us, when we download our app, we just download the app. We don't even check the privacy settings of the app. So that is why most app listen to your conversation. That is why if we are talking about maybe I want to buy cars now, the next thing you start seeing is cars. How come? Because you are giving it access. Artificial intelligence is very good. It's very good. But we have to create like a balance between artificial intelligence and privacy. And what the Commission has done for that to help AI and emerging technology is that we have what we call our guide. That is the General Implementation and Application Directive, which is meant to implement the acts. So under Section 43, yes, 43, we have guidelines for emerging technologies. So anybody deploying emerging technology in Nigeria, the first thing they need to put in place is technical and organizations measures. So people from cybersecurity, they are very conversant with that. You have to put measures in place to ensure that the data you have is well guarded, that nobody can breach. Like I said earlier on, the moment there's a new technology, someone is waiting there to hack it. They are hackers. That is what they will do. So that's why when you have your phone, you keep seeing a notification saying that you should update your app, that there's a vulnerability. If you do it today, tomorrow, because they had their hands, they are trying to also patch up any vulnerable aspects that hackers go into. So the issue of artificial intelligence is very critical. So for that guide, we also made a provision that when deploying apps that use artificial intelligence, there has to be privacy by design, privacy by default. I mentioned earlier on that when we download this app, we just give them access. So by default, the app is meant to be private. So by default, you go to your app now, you see that you have options to put off microphone, to put off contacts. In the same way, the issue of these shark loans. What happens? They download the app. And once they download the app, immediately you're already giving consent. If you look at the policy, you've already given them consent to take your data and to start advertising your obituary or just do something scandalous. You get them the access to do that. But now, at the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, we are raising people's consciousness that you have your right over your data. You need to be able to control your data. You need to be careful how you train AI. A good example is a news research this year where a child, I think in the US, committed suicide. And how did the child commit suicide? Through AI. So I think he was chatting with, I'm not sure if it's GPT, I'm not sure, and was telling the chatbot that he wants to commit suicide, and his chatbot told the child that to commit suicide. Through interaction, through the data the child has fed into the AI system. And that's why you see that people like Google, Meta, they are taking the issue of data privacy very seriously. And like you said, we need to now educate our children. We need to educate our grandmom in the village. Like, talking about cocoa now. Maybe your grandmom is a cocoa. A cocoa now is going online. That means our data too has to go online. So the first thing is, number one, human capital development. And what the Federal Ministry of Innovation, Communications and Digital Economy has done, under which we have NDPC, of recent they launched a program alongside Google, and that program is AI Campus, and we have Policymakers. So it's meant for public servants. So according to that research, it says that about 59% public servants use AI, but only 15% of them are trained on the use of AI. So what that cause door for public servants, number one, is that they can go online and learn about artificial intelligence. So in conclusion, not to bore you too much, when you talk about artificial intelligence, we also need to balance it with the issue of privacy. Thank you.
Okay, please a round for applause for them, please. These are my top orgazo. I don't know how you people are. This your clap is not even going anywhere, please. She actually was one of those that trained me in data protection, and this is also another orga that I always look up to. So please, let's and also please gather your questions. You have like 2 minutes to ask questions, but that will be after I ask my own question, Abby. At least I'm the orga for this session, Abby. So after I ask my own question, I'll give you 2 minutes to ask your own questions. Thank you. All right. So my question goes to Dr. Nasir. Being very, very involved in building technologies regarding cybersecurity, how, or rather, what are the implications of using all these foreign technologies on our African data?
The use of foreign technology has several implications. For instance, most of these solutions that are built do not understand our local context. Recently, I was doing a project, so I was using one of these AI solutions. And the more I interact with it, the more I discover that it knows very little about Nigeria, very little about northern Nigeria, zero to nothing about northern Nigeria or the Hausa culture. I mean, it knows what it knows, but the level of understanding was very, very poor. So and I said, okay, maybe I should look for trouble. I sent them an email saying that, hello guys, hi, I noticed that your software issues get key-leg like this. They said, okay, what do you mean? I said, okay, can we look at how we can work together to improve how it understands Nigeria? They said, oh, yeah. It's what they're looking at for the long term, da. So what she was trying to say politely was, Nigeria is not within their radar, like in terms of what they need to build. So that's when it hit me that, look, we should stop depending on this Western world for everything. We tend to depend on them for everything. We have a lot of young talent. We have to find a way to keep encouraging them. It's not easy, but we have a lot of young talent. I've seen a lot of young people develop cybersecurity solutions around. And when they go to big organizations around, to sell their product becomes a problem for them, largely because nobody knows them. So the question now is, how do we promote these local companies? How do we promote them? If you look at when most government organizations, when they have their tenders, you'd see you must produce BPP, you must produce PENCOM, you must produce, the list is endless, like 5, 6, 7, which is fine. But the question is, for someone that just graduated the university, he has a lot of talent. He teamed up with his classmates and he builds solutions. How can he get all those documents? So that's a big question I'm throwing out to all of us. I don't have the answers. I'm just saying that these are the realities. And these young people, how can we push them to bypass this? I'm not saying that we should bypass them, but how can we navigate those contemporary challenges? Because the truth is, so as long as we don't have our own local solutions, we should not have these conversations around data sovereignty. Because when someone else builds it, he controls what to do with your data. He decides what to do with it. So we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to promote these local startups. We have to give them funding. We need a lot of venture capitalists. We need a lot of angel investors in this space, because a lot of these guys might have the solutions. I'll tell you a simple, something that happened to me during the week. Just before I went to bed, I saw one of my colleagues put up a challenge that they built an application with AI in 4 hours, and it was fully functional Compass. I said, okay, I've never tried building an application with no codes, nothing, just prompt. I went online and I found a software solution that built me a Compass in 7 minutes. When the thing finished, I had to step aside and just clap for AI and just clap for myself, because it was really, really amazing. And then during the week, I was having a conversation with a team of land surveyors, and I was telling them the power of AI. And I brought the application, the Compass, and I showed them. I said, look, I know nothing about geography. The last time I did geography was close to 30 years ago when I was in secondary school. I know that there's X and Y coordinates, but what I had was the idea that someone gave me an idea that, okay, someone challenged me rather. And I was just able to put that in a prompt. It has its challenges. It was not perfect. But what I'm saying is solutions can be built right now with less effort. So really these days to sit down and say, I don't have money, I don't think that should be the conversation. The conversation is, where can I get a laptop? Where can I get data? Once you have these two, just the next thing is just have an idea. How can I start building solutions? And some of these solutions might not work. Some of them might be working with KLA, but at least let's encourage these young people because they are the ones with the energy. A lot of us that have crossed the 40 years of, since birth, our level of thinking and our level of taking risk has really changed because the truth is you have to feed your family. There are a certain level of risk you cannot take or we cannot take at that level. So that's why I'm encouraging the younger ones who have energy, who have time to take risk, to build these applications. They don't have to work. They can be scrappy and just knock into my colleague's office and say, look, I have a solution for your office. And then the office should be able to say, okay, let's look at it. Let's look at it. We might not buy it now, but at least let's look at it. Let's have conversations around how we can improve on it. So until we get to that stage, we would always talk about data sovereignty. Google is taking my data. Facebook, they would take your data. And they would do what they want because they are guided by the laws of their countries, which is fine. But we have to start thinking in that direction. How can we constantly evolve these laws? Because a lot of these laws, the cybersecurity laws that govern this country, I think there's a timeline of 5 years of review. So the same applies for the data protection. I don't know what the timeline is, but several other laws that guard our data, AI, and everything else, we need to constantly review them. And when we're reviewing these policies, it's not a question of getting experts to.
Right, this is better. So I understand that we have policies in place. NDPC has been doing a lot, throwing out trainings, awareness, and doing a lot to incorporate people, make them understand how they can use their data. And with regards to AI, now, do you think that these policies are aligned with our human rights and values? And how do you think what role do you think the government can play in making these policies suit us as Africans?
All right. Thank you. So, if you may recall earlier on, I spoke about data subject rights. All right. So, in the Constitution now, Section 37, it says that a citizen has a right to privacy, which was not well defined. That's why we now have the Nigeria Data Protection Act, which now talks about privacy. So, our act mainly is focused on the data subjects. That is, the rights of a Nigerian citizen to privacy, which is very important when it comes to artificial intelligence. Now, when talking about policy, of recent, the Minister of Communications, Dr. Bosu Tijani, there was this draft National AI Strategy document, which they are working on to at least have like a guideline on the use of AI, ethical use of AI. That's how you say ethical use of AI in Nigeria. And of course, the level of Africa, we have the African Union policy document on AI. And what they've been trying to do over the course of, I think, years, is to have like an harmonized policy for AI. If you may recall earlier on where the keynote speaker, Ibuku, was speaking, she mentioned the use of GDPR. So what GDPR does is that it's a kind of law that cuts across the EU. I know the EU is not just one country, it's a list of countries. So that is, they have this harmonized voice when it comes to AI. At the G20 meeting recently, they were talking about AI. And one thing they said was that no African data, no AI. because we already know that there's a problem with artificial intelligence in Africa. Most of these models are not being trained by data in Africa. It's foreign data. So a good example is when I did my PhD and I wanted to submit, they asked me to feed my research into Turnitin. I fed it into Turnitin. Turnitin is using artificial intelligence to mark, maybe you plagiarize, etc., etc. But there was a problem. The problem was that there's a way we speak in Africa. Even in Nigeria, there's a speak where Igbo will speak, Hausa will speak, Yoruba will speak, we will see that kind of accents. And the way you use English, we have British English, we have American English, we have Nigerian English, we have Pidgin English. It's still the same English as you are still speaking. For example, if I say I'm coming, it's Yoruba English, say it means that I'm Mumbo. I just translated it directly to English. And it's that AI, the authorities were just speaking terms that were common, that were registers in my discipline. We shouldn't be so. Why is that a problem? That's a problem because we have not had people develop something that is similar to Turnitin in Africa for the educational sector. So up to now, the educational sector is depending on Turnitin. And not forget that Turnitin is comparing our research document with foreign research documents. Because in Africa, how many of our research papers are fed onto AI? Because that's why if you go to university, you just see your research articles, you just see them pile up in the library. So that's why we are trying as much as possible to harmonize this policy. Like, to speak with one voice. That's why I said no African AI, no data. That's no data, no African AI. That's why I said earlier on that who are the people that feed this data into AI? So for example, if we take a document now and put it in AI to translate to French, and you put that document for AI to translate to Hausa, AI will perfectly translate it to French with like maybe 90% accuracy. If you ask it to translate to Hausa, you are going to have a problem because it's not going to translate it perfectly. So it means that there's this issue of training AI. And what we've done at the Commission is that we now have what we call data protection clubs in universities. It's very strategic. Because who are the people building these models? Who are the people meant to build these models? It's the people in university. And after they leave university, they go into the workforce. So what are we doing is to have this club to encourage them, to teach them about data privacy, and to encourage them that when you are building these systems, ensure that you build privacy by default into the system. Ensure that when you are building the system, the rights of the data subjects, which translate to the human rights, is being respected. When it's being built into that, I mentioned opt-in and opt-out earlier on. That is if you go online and they ask for your consent, you have to tick a box. It means that you have signed in. Just like you subscribe and unsubscribe. It means after a while, if you're not interested, you also go back there and do what? And unsubscribe. So what we are doing at the Commission is to raise people's consciousness that as data subjects, we are humans. And because we are humans, we have a right to privacy. And that right to privacy needs to be protected. Now, if I may say, it's not just about policy protecting your privacy alone. We as individuals, we also have a lot to do. Like the other panelists spoke that, who are the governments? We are the governments. Who are the Nigerians? We are the Nigerians. We also go a long way to be ensured, to be conscious that in our human interaction with artificial intelligence, we are always very careful. That at the back of our mind, we build what? The conscious use of privacy. It's not everything you take that you put into AI. You have a right, but protecting that right starts from you as an individual. If you don't protect your rights first, the government will not protect that rights. So the reason why we focus on data subjects is because that we need data subjects to start holding organizations, to start holding data controllers accountable. A prime example is, there was a time UBA locked my account because, I don't know, they said my account was on regular, money came, dash. And funny thing was that was the only account I had money. And I was very hungry that they have not hitting. So I went to UBA. They were speaking English. And I had to finish speaking. And I said, look here, I have a right. And that right includes that you have a right to keep my money to ensure that maybe there's a fraud or something. But I also have access to that money. So what you would do for me is that you need to lift embargo of that money. Let me have access to like maybe 2% of that money. Let me withdraw that money. Then once I withdraw that, I can do what I want to do with that money and come back to sort it out. Immediately I said that, she said, okay. If I don't know my rights, that's how they would lock my account out. I will stay hungry. And if I'm hungry, how will I think? And how will I work? So what I'm saying is that we as citizens, we need to be conscious of this use of artificial intelligence. Be conscious of the use of your privacy. And what were we asking? Also question. People should not just come and take your data and you're giving them the data. You're not asking them what they want to use data for. And app is asking you to upload your picture. Have you asked them have you tried to read the policy of the app while you're uploading your picture? For example, when people ask me and I go in and they ask me for my maiden name, I begin to wonder, what has my maiden name got to do? They won't ask my mother's maiden name. Of what use is that? So, as citizens, as data subjects, we ourselves have a lot of work to do. So this training of AI, it's not just about someone sitting down there and training AI. It's a collective effort of everybody. That's how I'm talking about harmonization of all this policy. So that we can do what? We can speak with one voice. Artificial intelligence can come to stay. And there's nothing anybody, you cannot run away from artificial intelligence. Like if you use Google Map, you are using artificial intelligence. I went to a bathroom recently. I saw the paper towel dispenser. I was trying to pull it in. It was pulling back. I was wondering what is happening. And I stepped back, as a researcher that I am now, and I stepped back with my glasses and I looked very well. And I saw it had a sensor. I needed to do like this. That may not be a complicated artificial intelligence, but it's amazing technology. It uses something. You know, someone can put a camera there and I'm waving. The person is just like the way you use your laptop. That's why we are quoting that your laptop's camcorder must be covered. Because someone is there looking at you online. And you know someone is looking at you online. So as Africans, as Nigerians, we also need to raise our consciousness about the issue of data privacy. In as much as the government is also trying to implement policy, trying to see what we can do to encourage that you have a safe and trusted digital economy, we as citizens also have that due diligence to ensure that we protect our privacy and to ensure that when things are not right, you start to what? Start to question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tolu, for that. So, my sincere apology to Dr. Shifra Wairima. I hope I did not murder your name. Okay. So, please, in less than 5 minutes. We don't have enough time. In less than 5 minutes. Is she still with us? Are you still with us? Dr. Shifra? She's still online. She's not online. Oh. Okay. So, okay. We apologize for that. We have international speakers from Kenya, and we were supposed to introduce her earlier. I apologize for skipping that part. I didn't know she was already online. And I think we're having, is it network troubles? Light troubles, okay. So, the question I was supposed to throw to her, I'm going to throw this question to Dr. Tolu, but Dr. Tolu, please, in 2 minutes. Please, in 2 minutes. Now, we talk about the data sovereignty, and we have partnerships, across nations on how we use data and AI. Now, the question here is, how can we leverage these partnerships to ensure that we are secure when using this AI?
So the first thing I would like to say, which is very tied to privacy, is accountability. There's what they call accountability, fairness, and transparency. We are talking about data governance, and you're talking about collaboration. That means you're talking about cross-border data transfer. When we talk about cloud, it means that your data is leaving your country and also going outside. And one of our pillars at NDPC is collaboration and cooperation. Like the Africans say, a tree cannot make a forest. That's not how you're not going to collaborate and work with other people. So the first thing we need to do is, most of this collaboration needs to have like a memorandum of MOU, memorandum of understanding. There's something called data processing agreements. You need to have data processing agreements to let us know that all those data storage, all those data you are processing that is being transferred, is it well secured? That's not the place of ensuring that these countries you have this collaboration with, do they have a data protection authority? If they don't have a data protection authority, is there adequacy decision in place to ensure that data you are transferring there is safe? And that's why the issue of terms coming, technical and organization measures. There have been, when we talk about technical and organization measures, we talk about encryption, anonymization, the identification. They will also talk about masking. A good example is masking is that if you take your card, your ATM card, you will see there's a masking. They will write some few numbers and mark the other number, so they don't identify you. So in as much as we talk about data sovereignty, we have to, and collaboration and cooperation, we have to have, like I said, MOU, data processing agreements, ensure that whatever the data is domiciled, that we have data protection authorities. And of course, the first question, the most important thing is that what are the laws we have in Nigeria that govern this data sovereignty? Do you have guidelines on data sovereignty in Nigeria? I'd like to tell you that it's part of what the Nigeria Data Protection Commission and alongside other key agencies are working on, because with the issue of this digital economy and artificial intelligence, the issue of data sovereignty is also very, very key. That's why we've talked about the issue of localization, and I've heard from the room now that the question is that, are we ready to locally host our data? And that is where Galaxy Backbone comes into the picture. And I'm sure they are trying their best possible best to ensure that they put necessary infrastructure in place. Rome was not built on a day. We start from somewhere, then over the time, we're able to have full data sovereignty. Thank you. 2
Thank
minutes.
you very much. Okay, she did try. Clap for her now. She tried to keep to time. Don't clap now. He will use 5 minutes. Okay, so Dr. Nasir, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Okay. So now you already told us about, the use of AI and everything around it. Now, we understand that nobody will produce a tool and completely alienate themselves from how that tool is being managed, right? At least we have some programmers here, and they will attest to the fact that you always leave either a backdoor or something that allows you, because you have to do repairs, you have to do upgrades and all that. Now, the defensive mechanisms that we have as regards to cybersecurity, are they adequate in the use of AI?
Are we referring to local solutions that we have already, or?
Do we have enough local solutions? And the international solutions we are using, are they adequate for us as Africans?
It's a very good question that you asked me. That whether the current solutions that we have, both local and foreign, are they adequate? Partially, yes. Because when it comes to cybersecurity, there are lots and lots of things that come into play. We have the technology, we have the process, and we have the people that use it. And if one of these three pillars within the ecosystem is not optimal, then the solutions will not work. So a lot of the foreign solutions that we have, yes, they're good. I think they're generally good. But I'll give you a typical scenario. There was a virus that was built. It was specifically built for certain languages. So imagine when the virus got out of hand, when the virus gets out of hand, it can only stay within that local environment that speak that language that it was built for. So what I'm saying is, imagine having local solutions that are contextual to us, like in terms of cybersecurity. That means we would have a more robust solutions because they'll be more effective because they are built to our specific context. I'll give you a quick reference. Yesterday, I was looking for, or day before yesterday, I was doing a project. I needed a voiceover like a voice background voice. And I said, okay, fine, I'll get an artist in somewhere in the north to do me a background song. And before that person could get back to me, I just went online and used AI, and I was able to generate a beautiful song with beautiful Hausa lyrics. But when I listened to the lyrics, it was a Chinese woman struggling to speak Hausa. So the question is, what we have is not, because they didn't build it with our context, they didn't build it with our local accent. So it's a Chinese woman struggling to sing Hausa in a Chinese accent, in a Chinese accent, trying to sing Hausa. So it was a good attempt. And then the beats were off because they sounded Indian. So somehow someone told AI that Hausa music and AI and Indian, they are similar. Yes, there are similarities. Why? Because in the 70s, 80s, a lot of us grew up watching Indian films. So there is that context. But when you talk about original Hausa rhythm, it's nothing to do with Indian. We have our own rhythm. But because of the way the AIs were trained and everything else, just assume that, okay, all these Kannywood films, all this Kannywood music, these are the contemporary Hausa music. And they use it to train their data. And then you have this Chinese woman singing Hausa in a funny, funny Hausa accent. So that just to give you a real context. And the same happens not just within cybersecurity, but within the music multimedia space, but the same thing happens with AI. The same thing happens with cybersecurity. When you try to build a solution for another country and then you bring it to Nigeria, it might work. It might work perfectly. But what if the font used in the language is Hausa? Like the font it could actually it could actually distort the way maybe the antivirus works. For example, I'm just saying. So we need to start thinking locally. Foreign solutions are good; they give us temporary cover and everything else. But the truth is, another dimension to it is a lot of these solutions are costly, especially with the current dollar rate. Are we going to keep giving them all our monies, our hard-earned monies? A solution to this is to leverage on these open source solutions. There are a lot of them out there. So the challenge to the local companies here is, how can we start using these open source solutions, those that have open license, to customize it so that it can solve our local cybersecurity problems? And not just developing the apps, we need people to patronize this. If you have a small business, you should be able to buy some of these locally made solutions, because that's the only way it can grow. We can keep thinking about building local solutions. These young kids would build the solutions, but we never told them nobody will buy it, because we're not encouraging them. We as in businesses, you as an individual, we need to have locally made antivirus softwares. I'm sure there are lots of them. I've not seen any in recent times. Sorry, I've seen one or two. One of my colleagues have built, but it's not enough. They're only operating within Abuja. We need someone in Kano doing the same thing. We need someone in Lagos doing the same thing. And we need to give them these opportunities. So there are lots and lots of opportunities out there for us to build these local solutions. And we can always leverage on the foreign ones, but let's not take it that it will take us to the finish or the promised land. Let's also use open source solutions, customize it, and make it ours in terms of context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir. One thing I like to do as an educator is to use the simplest of English. I like simple common language, or what's it called again? LCM. I like to make it as simple as possible. So before I throw to the audience, the opportunity to ask your questions, I think everything they've been trying to let us know is that AI is good. AI also has its challenges. You should be careful of the type of data you throw out there. We women that like to use AI to do our pictures so that we can look like we are living in the United States of Abuja, and we do not read the terms and conditions for which we actually upload our pictures. They are trying to warn you that you're feeding your data to AI, and AI is actually using your data to generate a lot of things, so that tomorrow you don't see yourself. It's your face, because you gave AI your face. You see your face, and then your face is stealing from one place. Now you'll be wondering how it got there. Somebody can actually make use of AI to do malicious, take malicious risk with your face. And they don't even really need to know that you're the one that they want to do this thing. All they have to do is ask AI, give some AI some prompts like use a black figure with chocolate, 5 seats, 6 feet tall, very round cheeks and all that. And AI will just deliver your pictures to them. And, you are sitting in your house and you're seeing a different thing, going on somewhere, and you will not understand how it came about. So you have to be very careful how you put out your data there. And also, Dr. Nasir has been trying to let us know that it's very good for us to use these international solutions, but we as Africans, we need to come up with our own solutions. We can't continue to rely on their solutions, because if we rely on their solutions, it means they are controlling how we use these solutions. I actually asked Dr. Shola earlier, as an engineer, you understand that we have these raw materials. Why is it that our young people are not coming out to build these things? Because we actually have all the raw materials needed. We export them. We give it out to them to use for us and then deliver finished products for us that are not even in line with what we really need. If you look at the phones, for instance, I think most of what we use the phone for is calls and then to sit down on social media and consume content that others have created. A lot of us don't even know that there are other uses to your phone, not just your phone, other devices that you use. So as much as possible, we need to build solutions that will cater to the African man's need, okay? That will cater to our own need without, relying completely. We are not saying that their technologies are not working for us. They are working, but we also need our own solutions that will cater to our own needs. So please, in a few minutes, if you have questions for us, I think now is the right time to ask your questions. I had questions in the previous session and then nobody gave me the opportunity. So let me not do the same thing. Okay, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very rich conversation. Okay, so you spoke about harmonized policy, across different agencies. So do we have, for Nigeria, do we have like an harmonized data? We have different platforms asking you, put your NIN, put your BVN, and then you put that, and then you go to another platform. They still request for that same data. So do we have like a solution like right now in Nigeria that these products can just leverage on, right? And say, okay, if users are going to use this particular data, right, please connect to this kind of API. And then you fetch BVN, get all their full names, get a birth name, and all of that. I don't know if we're working on that. I need clarification, because if this harmonization of data is there, then we can talk about protecting the data. Then we'll talk about localizing this data here in Nigeria. Thank you.
I think that the Tolu should answer that.
So that's a very interesting question, and we keep getting that question every time. So for now, all data in silos. That's why if you go to go and renew your driver license, they ask you the same question. You go to immigration, they ask you the same question. NIMSI asks you the same question. So all is supposed to be domicile and NIMSI because they have all major personal data. So what the minister is doing presently, to have a technical committee on national data exchange. So we are trying to come up with a framework whereby we can harmonize all data so that if you actually request for something, maybe from immigration, all they need to do is just contact NIMSI and draw up that data. So for now, no, but we are working to have like an harmonized policy for data. Thank you.
Thank you. Mine is more of a comment than a question, and is to tie the previous panel and the current one together. The previous one centers around operations of AI, and this is about security of AI. For me, my own opinion, it's just like internet. Before you can even talk of AI, we'll need to talk about internet access. Without internet access, there is basically more than not no AI. except because you cannot use your phone without the internet. It's usually not a thing now. So, number one, internet in many countries is already a human rights thing. So it's a fundamental human right for internet access in many countries. And Nigeria should join this band if we want to have participation, international participation in AI. And then the second thing is also AI will also become an human right issue, fundamental human right, because AI will be so ubiquitous that people will necessarily need to have access to it. We were talking about education of even from the young ones on AI. It's all about access. So we'll need to look at it for both the legal and diplomacy part of it. So the legal part of it is that we'll make internet and AI a fundamental human right for all Nigerians. And then it will be then you are forcing both the public sector and the private sector to actually be intentional about it. Then the other aspect is diplomacy. Diplomacy is about interaction with other nations, other businesses in other climes. So diplomacy is even concerning data protection regulations, data protection laws. It's all about diplomacy. Nigeria businesses in other countries, businesses, foreign businesses in Nigeria, everything all has to work around diplomacy and other laws and regulations and other things, and continuous interaction with different governments, Nigerian government with other governments. So I think looking at it from, and I think the other lady from NDPC has already mentioned something regarding to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is centers on the issue of for some of our students, of our kids, that how do we track them? Some of our students in the schools, some of them, they go into some website that you as fathers, you want to track them so that they will not be deceived. That's number one. Number two, regarding the issue of Windows 10 and 11 on the issue of cybersecurity. I want you to explain more on that. So how can we secure our system? Especially for me personally, I usually, when I see any mail, I respond to mail than WhatsApp message. So how can we be able to differentiate between these are hackers, these are not genuine? I mean, these are not hackers. Some of those mail messages.
So you asked a very good question around how can you distinguish between a real email and a fraudulent one. Before the hype of AI, it was really easy to tell. Once you see that maybe misspelling, you could tell. But right now, it's a bit more sophisticated in the sense that they could easily do a proofread and come up with a very nice, brilliant email. And then there's another thing they do these days is like the spelling of Microsoft. They can create a false domain and then add an R to it. So when you have an R and then you have M, it's not so, you can't really tell that there's that are there because of the way the curves of the N and the R and the M. So it's very, 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 very tricky. You have to be on the watch for. So what I'm saying effectively is, whenever you see an email, first of all, what is it asking you to? What is it asking you for, rather? What is asking you, is it urgent? Because typically the hackers tell you that you have 5 minutes or you have 74 hours before your Apple or whatever gets. So when you see that, you don't ask question, why are they putting you on the spot? That's one of the trends that you look out for. Even when they call you via voice, they want you to take an action now. They say, oh yeah, from the bank. Okay, what do you want? Fine, I'll come to the bank myself. Don't engage them. Because the truth is, once you engage them, you don't know when they will attract you. So the thing is, whenever you hear something or you see something that's too good to be true, reply this email and claim your 50,000 naira from the federal government. Chairman. What does it cost you to ask someone that knows someone that works in that agency and say, okay, are they really giving out free stuff? You saw an email and you don't understand it. Just ask questions. You don't need to know everything. Just ask questions. And go to their website. If there's, okay, you win or whatever federal government initiative is giving free money, go to their website and see, are they giving out free money? Because the truth is, sometimes we human beings, we like our wolf. They say, click here and with 100K. You're like, let me quickly give them my PV and everything. Pop, 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 pop. And trust me, as you're entering that send button, alert, you are getting it. That's how fast it is. And the sad reality is, it's very difficult for the government to track down that transaction. Why? Because it's just 10,000 naira or 20,000 naira. Recently, I was in the UK to speak to give a talk at a conference organized by the Cybersecurity Center there. So I was having a conversation with someone that heads their cybersecurity center. I said, look, I noticed that until certain money gets to a certain threshold, you may not really get the agencies to respond. And I said, I feel it's not fair. He says, well, even in the UK, we have a similar thing. I said, how do you mean? He says, well, okay, £100 gets zapped into someone's account. They'll probably use £10,000 to look for your £100. So they'll just probably put it in the record and say, okay, £10,000, put your name, records, and just leave it there. So you have to start thinking that these things are a lot more complicated. Until they have a buildup of cases or they see maybe a certain trend, it's really an overkill. Okay, for example, someone comes to your house and takes your maybe akara. You have one akara, you kept it, you're about to eat, and then you look away and someone took it. Do you think it's worth calling your friend that's in the police, calling your friend that is in various agencies to come and help you look for that akara? You have to look at it from the efficiency side of things. So it's easier to protect your own assets, your own goods, than to rely on a secondary option of maybe the government intervening, because you are the government in this case. You have to protect your own critical assets. You have to protect everything else before you can start jumping on, the government is this, government is that. No. You are the government. You have to take responsibility for your own things. And you may not really need to have all the knowledge. You can seek for the knowledge. And we're talking about AI. You can always ask AI, okay, AI, I'm keeping this pen here. How can I protect it? And then AI will give you, okay, there are several strategies that can use, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And then you take the one that makes sense to you, that you can apply, and then apply it. So that's it. Thank you. Yes, please. Let me ask you a question too. A question with a question. Have you ever sat down in front of an AI and asked it that same question to build you an app? You should try it. But yes, I think there are. And the reason why I'm telling you this is not to make jest of us. I'm just saying that some of these solutions, we might just be able to build it. That's why I threw you that question, just to give you that challenge. When you go back home, try and do a bit of search, because there are a lot of solutions out there that can actually build codes for you with no effort. You don't need to have any technical knowledge. Just ask it, hey, AI, I need you to build a solution so that I can help track what my child is doing. My child is using Android. Simple. And then see what comes up. It might work 50%, it might work 100%. One way to find out. I mean, there are a lot of proprietary solutions out there that you can build. I cannot really specifically direct you to one, but I'm just saying that, one, you can search for it on the stores. If you don't find something that works for you, 2, you can try to see if you can build your own. You might say, I don't have the technical knowledge. No, you do. Just go on the AI solutions out there and ask it, I need a solution. I don't have any code knowledge. Just build me a solution that works and see if it works. If it works for you, then now you could even decide to sell it. Who knows? I'm just challenging you back as well. Thank you. Yes, please.
So let me add something. So to answer your question, so there's this app on Google. It's called Family Link. So what Family Link? Family Link. So what it does is that, for example, I'm a parent, before I can open, so the legal age in Nigeria is 18. Until then, you're still a child. So for that family link, every email I open for my daughter is linked to my email. So on that family link, I can actually control what she does on her tab until she's 18. I can see the web she has browsed. If you take, say, because you're using one drive, the same drive, so if you take a picture, the picture automatically loads on my own gallery. So if you go to that app, you can actually see our browser history. Any game she downloads, you can see. That is before she becomes an adult, because you cannot monitor your adult child history. He or she has the right to privacy. In short, abroad it's 13 years. When they are 13 years, they tell you they have the right to privacy. So in Nigeria, it's still 18. So you can go for that because Google is trying very much to ensure data privacy, unless they will get sued. So you can go to your app store and download that family link. Thank you. So it's so your family. So the family, you have a Gmail account. So once you have a Gmail account, your Gmail account cut across all Google apps. So that family link is a Google app. Yes.
Good morning. Okay. This session was much anticipated by me. My name is Abuja. I'm a medical microbiologist as well as a healthcare data analyst. So I have a suggestion as well as a question. I think when it comes to cybersecurity, it's more of a behavioral problem as well as a technical issue. Because while we build systems that cover cybersecurity, while we build the security system, we should also build the system of fear also. Better laws should be enacted. So before someone think of breaching data or data monopoly, should think of the consequences of it. So secondly, my question, I and my team, we are working on something, a telemedicine project for rural communities in Nigeria to curb maternal and child death in Nigeria. And one of the features of it is an electronic medical recording. Medical history will be shared from one location to another. So as regards this, I really want to know how much, as a professional, data professional, how much of data can we collect from these patients, because we need their information. And for electronic medical recording to work, data needs to be shared. So how much of data can we collect from our patients? Secondly, as regards cybersecurity and healthcare, what really is cyber hygiene when it comes to healthcare? Thank you.
All right, so it's a two-way question, dual question. So I will answer my own part, and Doc will answer his own part. So yes, earlier on I mentioned sensitive personal data. So health records falls under sensitive personal data that can be used to discriminate against individuals. Now you talk about how much data you can collect. So we have a principle of data minimization, that is only collect necessary data. So now, if you are collecting for health record, collect data that is necessary for that health record. For example, now, if you are collecting data that has to do maybe with like tuberculosis, you don't need to maybe collect you can collect their state of origin to be able to maybe demographic something, but just like asking them maybe their Facebook handle or their social media handle. So the thing is that if you are collecting that data, you need to actually sit down and ask your question, and ask yourself. So there's something you need to do. It's called DPIA, Data Privacy Impact Assessment. We recommend it when you are building a new technology. And the reason why you have to do a DPIA is to ensure that the technology, the app or the system you are developing does not pose high risk to data subjects. That is, the people you are trying to protect with that app does not pose a risk to them. It's under where you are doing that DPIA that issue of data minimization will come up. So you're going to have a list of data that you feel. You are going to have like a large data set. Then you start to sieve the data and see that which data do we need to collect? Which data can we do without? So you speak to the principle of data minimization and data privacy impact assessments. And also ensure that this app you are developing has privacy by default. You need to safeguard those data. Like I said, it's sensitive personal data. It's data that, if be exposed, can cause discrimination against the data subjects. Doc.
So, still on the issue of applications that monitor children, the truth is, as you're smart by 10%, your kids are smart by 20, 30, 40%. Why? What do I mean by that is, I saw a real life scenario where I was sitting with my colleagues in the IT team, and then they were telling me, oh, these kids find a way to bypass our app so they can go access the internet without being monitored. And I was like, okay, we have a problem. Let me give you a simple example of what I do in my own home. When we hire a new house help, we bring her to the where we have the CCTVs. We say, look, we are monitoring, we are watching. And there was a time we hired a new house help. They were two. They were walking in the kitchen. And one of them was trying to do something. Then the other one tapped her on the shoulder and said, look. And we saw them. So it was funny. Me and my wife, we laughed over it. But the truth is, you always need to educate the kids. Don't do this, don't do that. Even when you install the apps, because they always find a way around. They are digital natives, it's their playground, but you have to educate them around what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And the same applies for our employees, those in the health sectors and other sectors. These are the do's and don'ts. These are the kind of information you should put on AI, and these are the kind of information you should not put on AI. For example, if you have someone's name, his health record, and you're looking for interpretation from ChatGPT, you're asking for trouble. Because maybe as a doctor or as a nurse or someone within the health sector, you're trying to maybe understand some of these things, because a lot of this health profession require research. Instead of asking your colleague, you can always ask ChatGPT or any of this AI, but take out those sensitive information so that you don't compromise your work or compromise your place. Then issue of cybersecurity hygiene within the health space. The same thing applies for every other organization. A lot of us, we feel that, oh, Microsoft Office or Windows is very expensive. So we just go to Zone 3 and get the cracked version. It works. Who cares, But the truth is, that cracked one may not necessarily be able to update itself. Sometimes these guys find a way to make these things update themselves. But even then, how are you sure that patch that you're putting was not developed by one hacker to find a way into your your domot? So sometimes, rather than going for the more expensive ones, if we can afford them, we can leverage on the open source ones, especially the free ones, so that we can carry out our work. Because the truth is, we can be compromised from in several angles. And then you have to guard your data. That's physically, you have to make sure that when you are leaving your data, if it's on a computer, you have to make sure you lock it, because you don't want your colleagues who are not authorized to access certain medical records. I worked with the NHS in the UK, and one of the trainings they gave us then was, health data is very sensitive. Maybe me and Doc, for example, we are working in the same hospital. It's unethical for me to ask her maybe after work and say, oh, how's your patient? No. Unless if I really need that information, I have no business asking her, because unless if it's work related. So that's what they did. So I think we need to be aware of the conventions around here, the local laws, the Data Protection Act. We need to make sure that the doctors, the nurses, and then the cleaners have unlimited access to so many things. They can do a lot. They can just come to the hospital. Okay, what's this? Oh, okay. And that day might be a senator, it might be a governor, it might be some important personality, and all they have to do is just put it on social media. Senator, this has tuberculosis, or something like that. So we need to be careful around how we even keep the data, how we even store it, how we process it. Not just the computer-based data, but the physical data. We have to be mindful. And when someone has no business touching a file, medical file, hospitals that still do medical files, physical files, they have no business. You don't have to say, oh, okay, go and take this file to that person. Does he have the right to touch the file? That's the question. If yes, then you can give it to him. Does he understand the laws governing the hospital or the laws governing the land around handling those files? Because some people are very careless. Because a lot of these leaked files we see online, government data especially, there may be people that don't really understand the implication of these laws. And then you just catch it and you send it to your best friend. Your best friend has a best friend. Your best friend has a best friend's best friend. And before you know it, the best friend is online. And then they start looking, okay, who is the CMD? And then before you know it, it's a junior staff somewhere that does not understand the laws, that just casually send it to someone he trusts. And that someone he trusts has so many people that he trusted. And this is how these things get leaked. So we have to be mindful of this data, and we have to learn and know how to protect it. And we as orgas and mid-management staff and lower management staff, we have to make sure that that knowledge is transcended down from the top to the bottom, so that everybody knows this land. Because those guys at the bottom of the chain, the cleaners and whatnot, we tend to skip them when it comes to data protection, trainings and several other trainings. I'm not saying that we do, but sometimes when it comes to training, we don't. This one a cleaner, we don't let them not go to our training, but we need to incorporate them because they have unlimited access. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. The conversation on data and artificial intelligence is very serious. Nobody's even smiling in this room. So rather than ask a question, I want to contribute to this conversation by answering a question that Dr. Nasir raised. So first of all, thank you for laying emphasis on the need for local involvement, in local involvement and promoting those local companies that contribute to contextual problem solving in Nigeria. And I was speaking with a founder a couple of days ago, and we talked about conversations similar to this. And we agreed on 3 things that are important: data validation, finance, and partnerships. So first of all, and the most obvious one, we have to validate the data that we use to create the problems for our Nigerian the solutions to our Nigerian problems, right? And we also have to look at finance and think about how we can create programs like financial inclusion programs for a lot of these local organizations, these local companies, so that they can navigate the different regulatory environments in Nigeria and help them get finance that they can use to push their companies forward. And then the third and not the least thing is in partnerships. So we have to also create avenues for them to partner, to create corporate partnerships that can strengthen their organizations at the local level that they are now and set them up for global growth and impact. So thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I really appreciate the chance given to me to make a clarification for what is beyond it. I wanted to ask regarding most of the transactions that are taking place in the bank. So when someone happens to be a victim of this hacker through unauthorization withdrawal of fund, I don't know why, whenever you visited a bank, they tell you once you give them that code that requested, they have nothing to do for you. And also if you proceed to the agencies that are responsible for taking care of that issue, they'll also say that they have nothing to do for you. So I don't know whether this is taking us back from what you are trying to progress us regarding to the digital economy. Thank you very much.
You've raised a valid question, but like I've told you, sometimes some of these investigations are not done maybe because what was taken from you was 1,000 naira. I'm not saying that this is the truth, but I'm just saying that this is a scenario. 1,000 naira was taken from you. And even the transportation to coordinate all the relevant departments, it will cost a lot. So what we preach for that awareness that even when someone calls you to transfer money or just delay it, you don't have to, even if they say, do it now, just delay it. Understand the situation. A few years ago, I was sitting down in my office space, and I saw a debit, like money taken out from my account. I said, Uber. I said, okay, no, what's this? Next thing I saw another one. I saw like 5 transactions. And then I've never used Uber before in my life, like for anything. This was like almost 8-9 years ago, thereabout. And I went to the bank, I wouldn't call their name. And I said, look, money has been taken from my account. What's going on? They said, I use Uber. I said, no, I've never used Uber in my life, like never. I insisted I've never used it. And they gave me a document to fill. And it was like, I think about $300 or $100. And 3 months later, the bank refunded me. So I got my refund. I was very happy because I followed due process. I went to the bank, I complained, I filled out the forms, and I followed up. But it's not the case for everyone else. And what you're saying is you gave them the authorization and that. And I don't know why the bank would not want to look into the case, but at least they should give you a form, they should give you a complaint form that you should fill out and everything else, and then put it through the investigation process and see what really happened. So that was my own personal story. So, and I think we just have to be really, really careful, because sometimes when these things happen, before you get your money back, it might take 3 months if you're lucky, just like me. And if you're not lucky, then it's too bad. So it's just best to always be on the watch on the lookout. If you see anyone making a request, delay that request, go to that person or call him. If he calls you via WhatsApp for that, call him via normal calls, because sometimes WhatsApp can be compromised, just to be safe. So you're always better safe than sorry. Thank you.
So I have a question for you. Okay. A lot of damage has been done so far, starting with historical records. For example, if you ask the internet, if you ask Google, if you ask AI who discovered River Niger, they're going to tell you it's Mungo Park. Yes. As a Nigerian, this is a falsified history. But in the educational system or in the world operations, in the most of operation of the world, if you are going to say otherwise in an exam, you're going to fail it. So technically, we've been conditioned in a way to approach the world if we want to make headways. I may know this, but our children coming behind may not know this. And the onus may be on us to drum this in them. Because the information they learn, some of the information I learn are mostly from movies or reading books on my own, not from school, not in sitting in the classes. So it therefore means that using this example as a point of departure, a lot of other damages may have been done to us. So even if we want to come on stage, we have the odds are highly stacked against us. So what are the modalities that we can take to protect our children from this history that has been falsified, or these steps that are way against us?
There's a saying that goes, until the lion can write a story, the story would always glorify the hunter. And it's true for everything else. Sure, we went to school, we were told Bayajida, the story of Bayajida, and so many other stories, which is fine. But in academia, like us that do PhD, they tell you have to that critical analysis. So we have to do critical analysis. This is what the text, when you're teaching your kids, this is what the textbook said. This is what your teacher said, and this is what I think. So you have to give that critical thinking to our children, that this is what the textbook said, this is what our own local history said. Bayajida never existed. That's for those that believe that Bayajida never existed. Then allow them to formulate their own opinions. If you ask ChatGPT or any of these AI solutions, give me top global leaders in the world that have spoken around, maybe that have good history and everything else. The first one you see on the list is Nelson Mandela. But whatever happened to Nnamdi Azikiwe? What did he say? Whatever happened to Ahmadu Bello and all these other top leaders that we have? These are people with impeccable records. But the truth is, most of these AIs were not even trained with this data. They were trained with South African data. So we need to start asking, how can we even clean this data? How can we train this data? And how can we even get this AI to challenge our thinking? How can we get our own kids to challenge our thinking? If you look at the entire world, the script is always written by those that lead, that dominate the world, which is fine. But until we start writing our own story, nobody will hear about our own local story. Like the story from my village. Sadly, there isn't much stories from my village. Why? Why? Because my grandparents never wrote a book. They never documented it. And funny enough, in my own village, there's a mosque that has over 200 years of history. Nobody told me this. As a kid, I was just curious, asking questions. Then one of my elder cousins, he now took me to one village. Down. He said, okay, do you know that this mosque is actually 200 years? I said, really? How come I've never heard of it? And I checked online. I don't think till today there is anything written about it. There's this famous scholar from Ahmadu Bello University, Dr. Bala Usman. He actually went to visit that location to verify and, just trace his history. But the truth is, my village people never really wrote a book. So the question is, which books are we writing? Huh? So we should sometimes we ourselves are responsible for these things. Have you ever gone to your village and say, okay, which of these histories that is important for my village, and let me put it online? If you go to if you go to Wikipedia now, you find something about my village, and I was the one that put it there. And Wikipedia is open; people can challenge this information. So until we start publishing out information about our own locality, the AI would not have anything to feed on. Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have questions.
Sorry, please. My name is Caleb. I was actually trying to refine his question before you commented. And the last panel too, I think we didn't have the opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to try and I jotted down questions that still relates on cybersecurity. I kept looking at the theme of this 13th Digital African Conference exhibition. I'm sorry, I still feel that I'm not hearing enough that is revolving around that keyword, sovereign intelligence. I belong to a little school of thought that felt that part of the problem we have in this part of the world is that we are copycats. We just copy what is out there in the so-called developed countries. And one thing that goes with copying is that you either underdo or completely overdo it. You copy everything and it creates a bigger problem for yourself. And I think that's what we're also doing with AI. Some brilliant panelists from yesterday up to today, everybody keeps pointing to the fact that where do we have the data? It's outside the shores of this country. And again, we are jumping in, wanting to adopt it, not starting from the foundation to build our own system. So we are still going to copy, and at the end, we are going to start looking for, just like we are discussing about the cybersecurity part of it, start looking for how do I protect myself, how do I protect my kids, how do I avoid this, when that could have been taken into consideration if we developed this ourselves, for ourselves, knowing our complexities or our own uniqueness, different from the Western world. The first panelists were talking about morality, and I was like, excuse me. You could see what our situation is. I fight hard. I'm still a staff. I fight hard to dress like this. And I insisted that this I'm going to dress because, quote, dress code is Monday to Thursday, corporate. Only Friday before you can do dress down. Copycats. So I have a problem that even the sovereign we are talking about, we are still jumping in and accepting colonialism even while we are talking about sovereignty of us in the case of this AI. You gave an example of rural schools that you carried out some survey and tried to assist them. How many of Nigerian schools even have seats? And you're coming to teach me, or the generation of 20, 30 and above, they're adopting AI. Why those who are starting from the foundation, nothing is being taught them? So how is it going to work? We're still going to copy and copy rubbish. And then after we start looking for how to solve the same problem that we must have created. So I am thinking that, like one of the questions I asked here is, what is the level of education in those countries before they got to the stage of adopting AI in the educational system? Are we close to that? second question I asked that relates to cybersecurity that you're going to answer for me, and which speaks to what you mentioned that you've carried out in Abuja. How many schools have functional computer labs? Let's even say secondary school, not primary. How many? How many have smart boards? I still see pupils being told to buy, to come to school with chalk. In this day and age, they're still having a blackboard. And we're talking of AI. And somebody said if you want to kill corruption in Nigeria, go to the unborn child and start teaching them from there. Then you can have hope that that generation will come and there'll be no corruption. But as long as we are here and we're not teaching them from that stage, once they come up, they're just going to adopt what they see, and it's going to become worse. And the bad thing about copying is that we copy the wrong things first and develop on that much more. I spent almost 20-something years in the North. I can tell you that the first Hausa languages I picked were insults, not the good ones. Same thing when I lived in Lagos. So I feel that we should take this issue back to the foundation, and that foundation is not foundation of certification that was spoken of in the earlier panel, but foundation of taking this back to the grassroots. First, lift our educational system to the standard that AI can now be taught from that stage. The children will grow with it, and in that case, we would start developing data and housing data in this part of the world, and then develop our own kind of security that meets our own peculiarities, not that of the Western world, who is already designed AI, made the laws to suit them, keeping us under colonization again with AI. I'm sorry that I spoke for a little long time.
Yeah, you've raised critical questions. I mean, since I sat down here, I've been talking about local content startups, but maybe the word you preferred to hear was sovereignty, but everything I've said was about building local solutions. And then you talked about teaching the fundamentals. The truth is there's a concept called leapfrogging. We can't wait until we have skyscrapers in Abuja and everywhere else before we start talking about AI. We can leverage on our current situation now, start teaching them. And the federal government, I can tell you that they've been active in this space. They've been trying in various fronts. For example, to give you specific context, I was involved with the curriculum development for HND programs for AI and cybersecurity. This was 3 years ago. And sometime this year, I was actually called back in to come and accredit some of these institutions. So not just, even NUC is actually doing the same. They've approved the the teaching of courses around AI at BSc level. But the polytechnics, they've started doing that conversation a bit earlier, which is good. So it's a conversation, maybe not at the pace we want, but at least we're doing something. We're trying. You know, everyone is trying his effort, but like you said, there's need to maybe accelerate that conversation. And my security guard, I don't need to wait until he's able to speak English fluently before I start teaching him AI. The question is, we even have to decolonize our heads. What I mean by that is, my security guard, for example, he's actually illiterate. He can read and write in Hausa. So do you call him an illiterate? Exactly. But a lot of us think, okay, he doesn't speak English, so he's not. No, but we correspond. He sent me WhatsApp. I sent it to market. I'm just trying to bring it to you on local level. So teaching someone AI like that will not be hard. Why? Because he has the basic literacy. Like, at least he can read and write. So we have to start thinking of how we can, it's a multifaceted problem, and we cannot solve it overnight. But let's keep pushing this agenda, pushing this narrative, that we don't have to wait until we have skyscrapers. As we are like this, what can we do to leapfrog, leveraging on AI? There are kids that are being taught programming in far north. Those kids are not even taught English. Straight programming, just jumping the gun, not jumping the gun, but jumping that process of learning. And they're doing very well. Some of them, they're programming. Some of them are content creators. And they're doing very well. So we don't have to follow this linear approach of development. Even this Western world that we're talking about, it took them 200, 300 years from where we are. Of course, there are some countries that built, like Singapore, they built everything within a shorter time. But we have to start looking in our own context. What can we do to accelerate development? And I think AI can really, really help us. It can really help us in that leapfrogging concept. That's my own input.
Yes, I was just there to say, so there's this proverb that said that if they bring water to your, if they bring water to your house, you can't say you're not prepared. You fight what you have. So for the issue of this artificial intelligence, you understand that there's this kind of gap. So even if you go to developed countries, there's still that gap between the rich and the poor. It will always exist. So the thing is that we have some schools now that have access to tablets. They have access to computers. Even some public schools now, that is, I don't know, I think it's Universal Trust Fund or something, where they give computers to school. So we can actually start from there. So like I said, Rome was not built today, like I said. We have to start from somewhere because this artificial intelligence is staring us in the face. So we cannot say that, okay, please, AI, wait. You want to go and prepare our house. No, we are going to make do with what we have. And it starts from you, it starts from high. The responsibility as a parent to ensure that we get these children. Most of you just give phone to your children to be pressing, and they are babies, and go and be doing other works. You know what is happening? Phone is artificial intelligence. You are allowing artificial intelligence to train your child for you. So it also starts from us as individuals. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just add a little to what they already said. If you were here in the previous session, they talked about educating and awareness, like a lot from beginning to end. So yes, we, like he rightly said, we don't need to have skyscrapers before we start doing something about it. I listened to, I've forgotten your name, programmer. Sorry, I've forgotten your name. So I listened to him and he said he didn't start with sciences, but currently he's developing with artificial intelligence. And you don't have to be in the sciences. Like you don't have to have a tech background for you to incorporate these things. Before now, we used to be reliant on the government for our jobs. But now most of our youth work remotely. And it's because of the use of AI. So we don't have to wait until it happens. Also, you said that the data is being trained by the Western world. I don't think so. The Western world does not have the capacity to train, or it's not that they don't have the capacity, but rather they refuse to use their own data to train AI. They're actually using, most of what they use is the African data. And you also said something about the intelligence. I don't know, that's just a word. But with everything we have been saying, if we trace back to the days of the abacus or what, I think Africans have been the major people producing the intelligence that the white people are actually harnessing to give us back. Like I said earlier, we have these basic raw materials. We have everything. But we give it to them to now use it to create something and then bring back to us. And I don't know, last year I have forgotten a program I attended and I mentioned something like this and I said, it doesn't make sense to me that we have all the raw, is it iron we are looking for, copper, all the raw materials, we actually have all of them in Africa. And then we give it to them and they use it to produce something and then they bring it back to us. We will now use our money to buy our own raw materials back in refined product, and it really didn't make sense to me. So the intelligence, the data and everything, I think Africans are still the ones producing majority of it. You have a question, programmer?
We will not be able to take any more questions, please. Any other contribution, questions, or feedback you have, can you just note it down and share with us, and then we can respond on that. This was a really great session. Thank you so much, Mr. Nasir and Mrs. Fadikwe. Can you please give them a solid round of applause? This was a very interesting session. Thank you so much.